Hello, everyone. It's National Infertility Awareness Week. And in the spirit of awareness, I'm joined here with Nicole. Nicole is a past Boston IVF patient. Hi, Nicole.
Hi.
We're here today to give advice. I am also a past patient as well. I also work for Boston IVF, but I am also a past patient. And so we kind of want to just join and talk about our experience of going through infertility treatments and give you all advice to help you through the process. So just want to introduce Nicole. Thank you so much. And do you want to start by kind of introducing yourself and giving your story a little bit?
Sure. Hi, I'm Nicole Seeley. And yeah, I started the process pretty young, actually. I was 27 when I started, and I just had an idea. When my husband and I were trying, and I just knew something was off and something was wrong. And I trusted my gut. So, when I went to the OBGYN, they're like, oh, you're so young, you have time. And something in my gut told me that wasn't the case. So I'm glad I did. And I pushed to get in front of, Dr. Bear, who I adore. So, in front of a reproductive endocrinologist, because come to find out, there was no way medically that I could get pregnant on my own. So through all the testing, we found out that I was right. And it took us a long time. It took us 6 years and 16 cycles total. So we did 8 IUIs, and we actually did 5 retrievals and 3 transfers. So the beauty was that through that process, we learned how my body responded to medicine, and we learned how to counteract effects of things within my system, because I have 3 different medical conditions that are working against each other, unfortunately. But Dr. Bear was a miracle worker. And on the other side of that, through the 16 cycles, so don't get scared by the number, because like I said, it sounds like a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, it was well worth it. But on the other side of that, we did have 5 losses, unfortunately, through the process. And but we did end up with 3 beautiful little boys on the end. I have a 9-year-old son now and 6-year-old twin fraternal boys. So it's possible. Eye of the tiger mentality, really. So yeah. That's my story.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, I didn't go through quite as many cycles as you. For my story, I started, we were just trying to conceive. We just got married a little before. We had some health issues. And then we were all ready to try. And then we tried for a little bit, and I was over 35, and I decided to, I worked at Boston IVF, so let's get started and let's get some testing done, and everything seemed normal. And, we did a couple letrozole cycles, we did a couple IUIs, then we went right to IVF. My story, I did have a loss after my first frozen embryo transfer. And we did do PGTA testing, which is to check to make sure that you have the right number of chromosomes in your embryos. So, and we found out actually I had Graves' disease after I did the first transfer. So I had to deal with that first. Again, in between, I had to pause, and I had to take some time and figure out how to deal with the Graves' disease, and had surgery to remove my thyroid before that was the steps I took. And then did another transfer, and then I was successful. But it's a lot to go through. And, I'm trying to think of what I can tell people, going through that process of what helped. And for me, one thing I did do was acupuncture. Did you do acupuncture at all, or?
I did do it a few times. Yeah, I did it post transfers 3 times.
Yeah,
and,
I got into
I loved
a weekly routine with it, and that was something that I really loved. It kind of felt like a massage, and
it really. And I was really surprised, because I was at that point, I think you're so anxious and desperate to do anything that will help, implantation odds. And so I was really, really surprised. I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, I was like, wow. I mean, who knew that had, hundreds of needles being in you, but you don't feel that. It's right. The most, it feels like you're laying out under the sun. It's just, it was awesome. I enjoyed it.
I felt them for the first couple seconds, and then afterwards you just don't even realize they're there.
Yeah. When that thing's on you, and it's the lamp, and I'm like, wow, this is awesome. I was surprised.
It was really nice. Some other points of advice that I was thinking about is just find your people. I couldn't talk about it with everybody. I had a few people that I really shared everything with. And those are the people that after every appointment, after every good advice, good news, bad news, I would call and talk to them about. But then there were people I wanted them to be informed, my family, my parents, and my in-laws, for example. I wanted them to know that I was going through this, but I couldn't have the conversation with everybody all the time.
Right.
how was your appointment today? When's your next appointment? And so
Right.
those people I kept informed. I would tell them, I'm going through this. It's a lot to go through. I don't want to talk about it all the time, but I do want you to know in the back of your heads that I am going through this if I'm having a bad day.
Right.
So I did try. So that's what I did. I don't know if you had the same experience or.
I would say there's a small circle of trust that, I was working at the time and, going through everything. So my bosses had to know what was happening and what was going on so I could take time off. But yeah, same thing. Like I had probably, my family, like my parents, my sister, who's, a psychologist, and my best friend at the time. And so there wasn't, and obviously my husband, but there wasn't nobody that had been through something similar. And there was nobody that could really relate on that level. And I think that to me is probably one of my biggest regrets, was not finding another friend who had been through the process like that. You know what I mean? Because it's very different when, you've got your family and friends and they've all been what I call, natural conceivers, and they're, they don't have trouble. It's such a different path and it's such a different journey that I regret not having someone that I had like that to talk to after. Because like you said, you're sitting at Easter dinner or you're sitting at Christmas Eve and you want to be like, hey, everybody, this is what's going on in my uterus. You know what I mean? So it's that kind of a thing where it's very intimate and very personal. I'm a very open person. But I'm also the kind of person that like, I need to gather the core within myself. You know what I mean? Like I really needed to have the strength within and not necessarily externally, but looking back, I think I suffered more than I should have because of the isolation, and to find a buddy and someone who can understand what it's like when you have a loss, or understand the exhaustion and the stims and the injections. And that would have made, I think, a world of difference for me. But that would be something I would recommend for people, is to really reach out. And, when you go into the clinic, I remember everyone's got their heads down and their phones, you know what I mean? It's early in the morning. We're all there for the same reason,
Especially now, I bet you it's harder with COVID, like, because everyone's in and out, not trying.
I can only imagine now, like, it's, you know what I mean? So it's even more isolating, but I know it's not the easiest thing in the world to sit there and be like, hey, good morning, but find a friend who understands what you're going through, because it is different. And
I bet you now, though, since you've like been open about your experience and what you've gone through, it's kind of maybe during the time it was a little harder to do that because you're going through it and it's so raw. But I bet you found a lot of people that have gone through those experiences, and now afterwards that they've done.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that I'm so blessed because now I've become the friend that, because I'm open about it, that people come to. I've really spoken to so many people from all walks of my life that have come to me privately and have said, oh my goodness, because of your honesty, like I thought I was alone. You know what I mean? So you're allowing people to be more open with their own journey because of your willingness to share. And that has been an incredible gift, because I literally, to have someone that, from, elementary school, or, you worked with at this place, to come forward and share that kind of intimate information. It's like a sisterhood brethren kind of a thing, and you're immediately invited into this extremely intimate realm within them, and you keep in touch, and it's been awesome. I love it. I really enjoy that I can help somebody in any way I can.
That's great. Good. I'm trying to think of what else I could give for advice. And one of them is, communication. Communication is so hard. And like, sometimes I realize I don't give as much information as I need to, or I don't ask the right questions. And so my advice was, just call back and ask the nurse the question, ask to talk to the doctor, make sure make lists. I would make lists all the time. When I went in, I'm sure everyone does this, but like specifically for fertility, I would make sure, because, you're going in to speak with a doctor, your cycle is going to be in a couple of weeks, and you have a lot of questions that you want to ask.
I think for, like you said, communication, I was a huge self-advocate, I don't look at it as the white coat syndrome, and I think that's what Dr. Bear and we literally were a real partnership and a real team. And he would call me and he would be like, what do you think about this? And he's like, we were a real team. When you work side by side like that with, someone for 6 years and 16 cycles, you kind of anticipate each other's chess move, you know what I mean, at that point.
Yeah.
But I mean, self-advocate, you got to trust in your doctor, you got to trust in that relationship, because you're literally putting a lot on the line, and you got to make sure that you have that rapport. Other things I would say for me that worked really well for me advice-wise is don't underestimate the power of your own perseverance, because I didn't look at it 16 cycles. I looked at it one at a time, like one cycle at a time. Like, what did I have a loss? What can I learn from that loss? Can I get fetal biopsy testing? Can I find out, anything to help prepare for the next cycle? And I learned through that process. I wouldn't take it back. People say to me, oh, wow, that's such a long time. And was it traumatic? And I said, it wasn't, because I had such a positive attitude, and I don't think I could have done what I did without that, because perseverance was just a gift. And it's been something that beyond infertility, has taught me so much about myself. And I wouldn't have learned that had I not gone through that process. I know that no matter what comes down the pike, I'm going to give it 110%, whatever that might be. So that's been a gift that besides having my beautiful children, that I'm extremely grateful for. So the pain doesn't have to be, or the emotional difficulty doesn't have to be for naught. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It serves so many different purposes. And yeah, I would tell people that just entrust in your own core strength and your own ability to persevere. Because there were many times my husband wanted to give up after 3 IVFs. And I'll never forget, he took me to a therapist, because we were getting therapy through the process, because that's really important. You know what I mean? Please know that you're not superhuman, and you need support. So it's your husband's going through it, or wife, and you guys need to do it as a partnership. So we were going to a therapist at the time, and he brought me to the doctor's appointment, and she said, your husband's brought you here today to talk to you about when you're going to stop cycling. Now, I had already had Justice at the time. And literally, when I was on the C-section table having him, I asked my OBGYN, I asked my doctor, when can I start cycling again? Like, he's being delivered at that moment, like he's coming out of me. And so I'm like, when can I get back into, he's like, Nicole, can we finish the C-section first before you start asking? So, we had Justice. He was like 1.5 years. And then, at this point, we were trying, and we were having so much difficulty secondary. And so he brought me there. And so she said, he's here to ask you today, like, he needs an end date on when you're going to stop. That's
hard to hear.
Yeah. So, I'm sitting there, and he says, he wants to know when that day is. Like, when are you going to eventually say, this is it, we're calling it quits? And the blessing and the curse of having that kind of tenacity was that I said to her, when I'm successful again, that's the end date. You know what I mean? And I said, I can't, knowing that I've gotten there once, there's no way that I'm going to stop until I get there again.
Right.
And that was hard. That was really hard for him, because he has a very different emotional process than I do. And you have to look at your marriage and look at your relationships and balance each other's strengths, because you're going to lean and pull so much. Did you find that with yours too?
I definitely did. Like, I felt like we had to be on the same page. I felt like I was more of the leader in this, and he was kind of going along, and that was okay. Yeah. And that was the way we dealt with it. And that's how we kind of, that was what I wanted, and he was okay with it. Yeah, I don't know. We didn't have as long of a journey, so it wasn't as hard in that journey, but yeah, it's definitely getting on the same page. You have to feel like, if you're not, it's not going to be good. So you have to have communication, like not just with your doctors, not that you're right, with your spouse, and with going through the process.
And they need to understand that there are certain things that like hormones are going to make you more weepy, or like it's just for me. I mean, being an HR director from the past, I just look at it like I'd rather over communicate than under communicate. Do you know what I mean? I'd rather put it more out there to the people that are in my circle, so that they understand, but not like you said, not wear a sign every day that says, I'm at this point in my cycle,
And going off of that, like, I would just say, like, be kind to yourself. Like, you know, like, cause you're, like you just said, you're taking all these hormones and you're going through this process and it's a lot to handle.
Yeah.
Like, treat yourself. I would, like, you know, buy myself something that I normally wouldn't buy myself after like a long week or after the stims, or,
Yep.
you know, a cute outfit or just something, or like
Yeah.
a spa, like an acupuncture appointment or a spa day or something, just to make sure that like you're happy, like you're making yourself happy, because you're going through all of this and you're looking for the outcome to be something, but you don't want to spend this whole time you're going through this unhappy.
Right.
And like giving yourself shots. I just wanted to bring this up too. Like, I gave myself my own shots.
Me too.
I felt more comfortable about it.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't think they were that bad. So for anyone that's just about to start the process, I didn't do the PIO shot. So we actually did the Crenone, but I heard those are worse. But when you're going through the cycle, the 10 to 12 days or whatever it was for the stims, I didn't find those that bad.
I didn't either. No. Okay. Yeah, I kind of, I did so many. I did a lot of my legs, on my upper legs, and then in the arm. And I didn't see, I mean, I have a little bit more chub than most too, so that maybe that's it. But, I had a little more crushing there than most did. So that might be part of it. But I mean,
the first part for me was like just after the IVF retrieval was just me, like after the anesthesia, just staying like dehydrated and all that. And fine, like
every time I came out of anesthesia, I wanted steak. Like every single time I came out, and most people are nauseous, and I'm like, where can I get a T-bone steak? Like every time, and it became these rituals, like you said, like the treating yourself. Yeah. I would go out after every surgery and get a sirloin steak, you know, and then after, our appointments or transfers, my husband and I would go to Bickford's and we would have a breakfast and we would sit. And so these little rituals start forming. Yeah. And to this day, when I drive by, I still have you have those memories of those conversations. Yeah. It's like, that was our place, so it's like that becomes a part of your story, and those things continue. It was cool. It was fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story, Nicole.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Any last pieces of advice that you would give anybody?
Oh, that's a good one. I would say, like you said, practice kindness to yourself. I ripped myself apart a lot. I had that mentality of, for me, I had that mentality of my brain versus my body, because I always told Dr. Bear, and he'll laugh because when he sees this, is that I would always say, my brain is a battle axe and my body is a prissy princess. Do you know what I mean? Because my brain is like dig down and plow. Yeah. But my body is very sensitive to, to so many things, because I have 3 different conditions. I have PCOS with insulin resistance, hypothyroidism, so there's all these things that were working against me. So I had a really big mind body disconnect where I was not connecting those 2 things together. And I was practicing kindness externally, but I wasn't practicing kindness internally. And I was really ripping myself apart. Like, why is this so hard? Because my husband had a child from a previous marriage. So we knew he was okay. The infertility, the factor was me. So, I would just rip myself apart. And that, if I could go back and tell people, please do not do that. It is unnecessary torture. You're in the best hands possible. You're in the right place to figure out the puzzle pieces for what you need to be successful. And you got to just trust in the process and trust that the people that are working with you and beside you know what they're doing, and we're so fortunate that we live in a time and even in a state that pays for these treatments and that they're available. So, just practice more self-kindness. Don't rip yourself apart. And no matter what the outcome of the cycling is, if you got to take breaks, if you have to, for me, I didn't take breaks because I just knew that my momentum had to keep going. Like I said, I'm on the C-section table and I'm like, can we do this again soon? So, if things are going well, just take care of your heart, take care of your soul, take care of your spirit, and know that every emotion you're feeling is totally normal. The whole range of it, the anger, the joy, it's a major task. And I feel like my struggle became my greatest achievement. I really did. Yeah. So just take care of yourself, communicate, trying to think anything else. If you really want it, don't give up. You know, don't give up. I think I have the thickest file at Boston IVF. I really do. I think if you pull it out right now and you look at it, like I remember when I was going in for my final transfer, I was talking to Chris at the time, one of the nurses who I love. Yeah. And I sat there, I'm like, is that my file on the counter? And she said, yeah. And I'm like, it's like that. It's like this thick. She goes, yeah, you're a record holder, my dear. And I'm like, you know what? It's not an award anyone wants to win, but it's proof that, yeah, it's not like I walk away with a free toaster. You know what I mean? So it's proof that, you know, if you put your mind to it, you'll get there if you want to, if you can. You're in the right place for it. So
yes. And you guys, I would say the same things: kindness, communication, not only with your providers, your nursing team, but your, again, like you said, your spouse, and going with it, your family, your support people. But yeah, I loved it. Thank you so much for speaking.
Thank you. It was so fun. Thank you so much.
We hope that this helps everyone that was watching. If you guys have any questions, or please write them in the comment section, and we will try to get back to you as well. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.